Welcome to Career Tools. Today's topic, what to do with a counteroffer. Here we go. As the economy heats up, there's going to be a lot of folks out there, right? And they're going to find that talent is short and they're going to start to receive multiple offers for new roles.
Yeah.
In addition, when you try to resign, your current company, believe it or not, is going to counteroffer. They're going to offer you more money, more benefits, more training, a promotion to stay.
Not always.
Not always.
Not always.
But boy, if they do, you better know how to handle it.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is now, I was telling a client, I think day before yesterday, that we're recording this in 2011. The economy hasn't been that good for the last couple of years. And managers have been mistakenly thinking that they have good retention numbers right now. Well, they do relative to 5 years ago, only because nobody's leaving. When the market starts to heat up and companies start to lose people, managers' retention ability, their ability to retain people, is going to come under scrutiny. And the managers who lose one or two people are going to panic. Because the first manager loses somebody, HR is going to say, or some senior person is going to say, look, do we have a problem? Have your people just been staying because the economy's been bad? Are we going to have a brain drain over here? So panicky managers, when the economy starts to heat up, are much more likely to make counteroffers. They don't make counteroffers at the end of a boom. They make it at the beginning of the boom when they're thinking, oh, I won't have the people I need when economy starts to pick up and workload increases here. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like in some place in the economy, it's already happening. Right. It's already happening.
Yeah.
And you and I both know, we've had a long experience here. The first time most people are counteroffered, they do not know what to do. And they often make some pretty critical mistakes when it comes to the counteroffer. So tonight, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, it's worse now. It's worse now than it's ever been, than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And the reason why is because people have been led to believe that I can negotiate, that it's actually okay maybe to go out and get an offer in order to incentivize my firm to give me a counteroffer, which is just arguably one of the dumbest things ever. I wouldn't call it galactically stupid, but it's solar system stupid. That's for sure. So we have 3 recommendations. The first one is real easy. Don't do it. Don't take a counteroffer. And we'll explain in detail. This is Career Tools. We'll explain it. Step number 2, what do you say when you get counteroffered? Again, this is Career Tools. We're going to tell you what to say and how to say it. And then third, I've already alluded to this one. Don't you dare go out and interview in order to get a counteroffer. Don't do it. There's a lot of pitfalls there, which we'll talk about.
Right. Let's talk about your recommendation to not take a counteroffer. I mean, that's pretty black and white. Do you mean it that black and white?
No, you know me, Mike. I'm a pretty nuanced guy. Everything has shades of gray. In fact, there are very few things that Mark Horstman sees as black and white. I'm sorry. I try. Guys, we're recording this late at night, and I just couldn't keep a straight face through that entire sentence.
Hey, it was hard enough for me to keep a straight face asking you if you.
I'm going to defend. I'm going to defend my black and whiteness simply because somebody needs to tell people about the bad advice they're getting. And there are people who talk about, oh, go get a counteroffer. Oh, sure. Yeah. But no, look, I promise you, there are people out there right now, Mike, you know it. They're sitting out there saying, what about this circumstance or that circumstance? Maybe there's a situation where maybe, it depends. My situation's different. This company, this industry, sort of thing.
Well, I took out counteroffer one time and it worked out just fine.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. You want to tell that story now? No, maybe you don't.
Because I didn't take a counter. I mean, I left a company and I got my boss's boss called me in the office, took me to the executive suite and offered me a 2-level promotion and a big raise and literally said, pick the job you want and it's yours. And I remember I called you up and you said, don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
And I didn't. And thank God, because I know somebody subsequent to my departure did the same thing, actually took the counteroffer and 9 months later didn't have a job. So people have long memories when it comes to that. And believe me, they don't feel when they're giving you that counteroffer, they feel that you're holding them over a barrel and they have no choice. And if you don't think they resent it, think again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they do. You're right. Long memory is absolutely right. They'll remember it 2 or 3 companies later when you're still in the same industry and they run across you. Yeah. And there are people who will say, but wait, I took a counteroffer and it turned out fine. And look, we're not saying it's that there's no situation where it doesn't turn out well, but you got to remember, folks, we give the right guidance for 90 to 95% of the people 90 to 95% of the time. There are some rare exceptions. And right now, if you're listening, you're not the exception. Or if you think you are the exception, just understand if you're doing it with an enormous risk. And if you don't feel the risk, one of the things Mike and I have learned as we become executives and have more experience that maybe someday will get catalyzed into wisdom, we've learned that the risks that really get you are the ones you don't see. And if you're thinking there's no risks, when everybody else who had a lot more experience would say, oh my gosh, do you realize the risk you took? And you're blithely innocent of the risk. Those are the dangerous situations. It's fine to take a risk when you understand it, when you've weighted and measured it. That's okay. That's good. That's about strategy and decision making. Risks you don't see though, where you're comfortable, that's bad. And look, for 90 to 95% of the people, taking a counteroffer is a mistake.
Yeah. And folks, I mean, how many times in your life are you going to do this where you're going to resign or move or whatever, and your employer gives you a counteroffer? Not many. Probably once. So if something happens to you once, it's the old Horseman Christmas rule, right? If it happens to you infrequently, you're not going to be very good at it. So listen to our advice.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So look, when Wendy and I used to work in recruitment, okay, we'd meet new candidates every day. We'd interview people all the time. Okay. They'd come into the office and they'd say, I want you do an interview with them. Say, I want to leave my current role. Okay. And they'd say, my manager doesn't respect me. That was classic, right? I've been there 2 years. I've done everything I can in this role. I work too many hours. I'm away from home too much. Can't stand my customers. Don't like the product we make. By the way, these things aren't good things to say, just so you know. I need more growth. I've been promised increased pay or promotions. They said they're going to train me. They don't do it. It hasn't happened. I don't believe them. I'm losing trust, blah, 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 blah. Long list, okay, of why people wanted to move. So we'd go through the process of finding out what they were looking for, right? What they're good at. And they go out and interview and they finally get an offer. And they go into that manager that they said they had lost trust with and that was representing a company that they just couldn't see themselves staying at, and tell them they're resigning. Okay. And the manager says, but we love you. We need you. We can't do without you. You, my friend, are too good to lose. We have the executive suite and 2-level promotion and you're Ozan. We can't lose you. We'll give you more money, increased benefits, new role, anything to keep you. Okay. Now look, folks, I promise you, if this hasn't happened to you, let us tell you what that feels like. You're going to feel two things at that point. You're going to feel flattered first. Wow. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. They've come to their senses. It took the risk of losing me for them to say, my gosh, he's the heart and soul of this division or this group or this unit or this section or this team. We can't lose him or her. Yeah. Despite whatever misgivings you had about the role 2 months ago when you started this whole journey, your manager thinks so much of you that you feel good. It's very rewarding. It's a very positive experience. And then secondly, you feel obligated. You're obligated to hear them out. Now that you've been reminded about why you worked there in the first place, look how much they're fawning over you. Well, you're going to listen, of course. And unless you shut it down immediately, the manager's going to say, well, don't make a decision until I at least get you the details. And what happens is the manager promises to go to talk to HR or his manager or get them whatever it is they need. And by the way, the manager will say, look, give me some time. And I'm going to walk out of here. I got to go talk to HR right now. I'm calling my boss. Pick him on my cell. I'll call him on the cell while I'm walking over to HR. We're going to have a little confab over in HR. I'll have the boss on the speakerphone. And you got to give me a little bit of time. Now, the moment the manager makes that call, the moment HR or his boss is involved, his goose is cooked in the sense that they know he has a retention problem. If he spills the beans at that point and then admits to them that he's caving, and for all they know, you're asking for more money and he's running like a wounded dog to go talk to them. If you then say, no, I'm not going to take counteroffer. There's nothing you do. I'm sorry. Don't do it. Now, double jeopardy. He's losing you and you've made him look bad and he's lost the ability to politically spin the loss of you. And don't think he's not or she's not going to politically spin a loss And it will be easier for them to politically spin the loss if, in fact, they have not gone and said, oh, we got to make up a counteroffer, we got to gin up a counteroffer, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So you now are obligated to wait. Now, look, here's a secret for you. Okay. This is what recruiters know, guys. Any candidate who listens to a manager and accepts whatever he offers, more money, new role, more training, less hours, whatever it is he offers, because he thinks it'll keep you, will be back to us recruiters within 6 months to a year. It's true 90% of the time. Just like your story. Exactly like your story.
Why is that true? Why do recruiters know this?
Yeah. It's really pretty simple when you think about it. When everybody was listening to me describe the travails of the person who was thinking about leaving, I don't like the product, I need more growth, I work too many hours, I've been there 2 years, I've done everything I can, I'm the heart and soul, and they don't respect me, they don't appreciate me, they don't pay me well. Because folks, no amount of money makes up for being miserable at work, and your boss and the culture of the company and the things, the systems and the processes that bother you will not change because you have threatened to leave. Period. Okay. The only thing that's going to change is your pay. You might think, well, I got a promotion. Yes. And all of those systems and all of what you didn't like, even if your boss changes, and there's a rare exception where you go from a really bad boss to a really good boss, but that generally doesn't happen very often, because if you go to a really good boss, it's probably somebody who knows you, which means it's probably your boss's boss if you're getting promoted. And if you're going to a really good boss, it's unlikely he has a really bad boss, your old one, working for him or her. So look, if you're moving because you don't respect your manager, another $5,000 a year gross pay isn't going to make a difference. And by the way, $5,000 a year is $400 a month before taxes. So don't get too excited. Right? I know people who have gotten a $10,000 raise and said, I really didn't feel it. Maybe if they're managing their money well, they do. And they put it all away, and that's great. But they don't change their standard of living, and they say, I don't really feel I'm making any more money. And then the processes, it's not the money you interact with at the office, folks. It's the processes and the systems and the people and the culture and the customers and the company. Okay. If you're moving because promises have been made and not stuck to, and now more promises are being made to you,
what's the likelihood?
Folks, I'm sorry. They're not going to be kept to again. They're not going to stick to their promises again. And I know that's harsh. Look, we don't wish a bad environment on you. We don't. But you need to know what the risks are of the things you're doing. Okay. If you're moving because you've outgrown your role, adding a few extra tasks in the role that you're in, we'll give you this big new project you're going to be working on, isn't going to keep you interested in the long term. I promise you, this is going to be a terrible analogy, and people are going to write me and say, I don't like that one very much. But when you go to your boss and say, I've got another offer, and you don't say, I'm resigning or I've accepted another offer, in which case then you don't get a counteroffer usually, or you can keep them from coming in. If your boss thinks a counteroffer is possible, she is going to give you a counteroffer. And when you bring that up, she feels like, or he feels like, they suddenly have a pimple in the middle of their forehead, and it's painful. And then when you accept the counteroffer, they pop the pimple and they're done, and they forget about you. And it's over. 2 days later, it's gone. And now they're back to the status quo. They simply solved their, I've got to fill his position problem, and they fill it with you. And within a week or two, they've forgotten about the changes they're going to make, except that they remember that you put them through hell. I wish it were different. I wish it happened differently, but that's my experience after hundreds and maybe 500 or so counteroffers I've seen over the years. It just doesn't work. Now, look, there is some advantage in staying with a company you know. The goodwill you've built up is really valuable. But if you're really, truly ready to move on, and by the way, just wanting to leave a company is not a good reason to move on. It's really best to find another company you want to go to. If you start taking the first offer that's offered to you when you're unhappy, that's really probably not a good sign.